Okay, let's dive in. We are unpacking something today that feels, you know, deceptively simple. Small talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's so often just dismissed as
Yeah.
filler, right? Just polite noise we make before the real conversation starts.
Right, but what if that is the real conversation?
Exactly. What if it's the actual foundation for social safety and connection? That's what we're going to find out.
Yeah.
So our source material for this deep dive is this wonderfully straightforward, easy English podcast. It's designed for mastering daily interactions.
And the simplicity of the language, it's actually perfect for us. It lets us see the social blueprints underneath it all.
It really does.
And that's our mission for you today, really. To analyze the strategic function of these little exchanges, we have to look past the words themselves and get into the sociology.
Okay.
So the source defines small talk as just, short, friendly conversation. But we want to know not just what to say, but why these very specific techniques are so effective globally for being friendly and polite.
That shift in focus from just language to social strategy, that's the key takeaway right from the beginning.
It is.
So let's start with the core philosophy the source gives us. The most crucial instruction, the thing that really sets the stage, is that small talk is explicitly not about perfect English.
And that is such a relief, right, for anyone with social anxiety or who feels insecure about their language skills.
Absolutely. The goal is framed as purely social.
If the only objective is to signal friendliness, all that pressure it melts away. You're not being graded on grammar. You're being judged on your intent.
And the source points out the three big places where this happens, the universal social intersections.
Yeah, at work, in shops, or when you're just meeting new people.
And those are all moments of fleeting contact, aren't they? They're the little social gaps we have to cross every single day.
Exactly. And the source leans into that low-stakes nature by recommending specific techniques that are really designed to manage expectations. Well, the simplicity itself is a feature. It's part of the deal. By using easy English, short sentences, you're basically signaling this will be brief, low risk, and it won't take a lot of effort from you.
It's almost an act of respect for the other person's energy.
It is.
And I love that the guide explicitly says short answers are okay.
Yes, you don't have to carry the entire conversation. A simple yes can be just as socially successful as some, witty remark.
And we have to talk about the nonverbal part that's mentioned. Smiling.
Oh, absolutely critical. A smile is the ultimate social lubricant. It's the universal sign that this interaction is safe.
So if the goal is just friendliness and politeness,
then you could argue that the nonverbal cues, the smile, the eye contact, that's 90% of the success right there. The language is almost just a script for the performance.
That's a great way to put it. The words are just supporting actors.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get to those words. If the philosophy is all about lowering the stakes, what are the reliable anchors we can use? The source gives three really specific conversation starters.
Your conversational safety nets.
Right.
These are topics that are, least likely to offend or require any deep personal sharing. So they are, first, the weather.
The all-time classic.
Of course. Second, work. And third, daily routines.
Okay, the weather. I mean, we all use it, but
yeah.
Strategically, why is it so powerful? What does it actually achieve on a deeper level?
It achieves immediate low-stakes consensus.
Okay.
If I say, it's cold today, and you agree, we've already done it. We've completed one cycle of synchronized social behavior. We've confirmed we're in the same reality.
It's like a test run to see if our systems are compatible.
That's a perfect analogy. It's not about the clouds. It's about checking the social connection.
That makes so much sense.
And work and daily routines follow that same kind of risk management pattern. Work lets you place a person in society, without asking anything too private.
And routines, like the commute.
Talking about routines establishes a kind of temporary conformity. You're both confirming that you're a part of the day-to-day effort of being a functional person.
So we're not asking about their deepest fears. We're asking about the shared universal burden of just living.
In a friendly way, yes. It's safe ground. And that's why the source says it gets easier with practice. You're building muscle memory for these three safety zones.
Okay, to really see this in action, we have to look at the case study, the bus stop conversation between Maya and a man. Let's really break this down.
Let's do it. So the scene is set, Maya's waiting, a man approaches, and the analysis starts the moment he smiles.
That's the first move.
That's the signal of positive intent. It preloads the whole interaction.
And then he goes right to pillar one, the weather. And he says, "Hi, nice weather today, isn't it?" So That little tag question at the end, isn't it? Why is that so strategic?
Because a tag question isn't just a statement, it's a soft invitation to agree. It's practically begging for an affirmation.
It makes it so easy for her to respond.
It does. And Maya gives the essential confirmation. Yes, it is. It's sunny and warm. Boom. Shared reality established. Mutual friendly intent confirmed.
Baseline established. Now for the transition. The man pivots to the next pillar, work and routine. He asks, are you going to work?
And the context of the bus stop makes that a completely natural question.
Right. Maya confirms, yes, I am. I work in an office. Simple, low risk.
But here comes what I think is the most important strategic move of the whole thing.
Okay.
The man responds by creating a shared context, a moment of kinship. He says, oh, nice, I work near here too.
Ah, that too. That one word.
That one word is doing so much work. It instantly dissolves the stranger dynamic. They're not just two random people anymore. They're temporary allies who share a location, a commute.
They've just built a tiny two-person community.
For the next 5 minutes, yes. It validates their presence in that space.
It's brilliant. The social distance just collapses. And because of that, Maya now feels comfortable enough to take the lead. She moves to pillar 3.
Shared routine.
Do you take this bus every day?
It's the highest probability question she could ask. She's confirming the shared effort. They both confirm it, and there you have it. They've connected two strivers using the 3 safe topics in perfect order.
Environment, role, and effort.
Exactly.
And then the bus arrives. A perfect, natural exit. It prevents the conversation from fizzling out.
And the closing line is just as critical as the opener. Have a nice day.
Well, thank you. You too. A clean social exit ramp.
Right, and then the source notes the emotional payoff. Maya feels happy. And this isn't happiness from learning vital information.
No.
It's happiness because she successfully took part in a friendly, validating social ritual.
That's the whole point. The success metric isn't the data, it's the confirmation of social safety. She was seen, acknowledged, and it was positive.
It confirms her place in the world for that brief moment. It turns an anonymous public space into a temporary community. That positive feeling is why small talk exists.
Okay, so to help you, the listener, get that positive feeling, let's turn this into a practical toolkit. The source gives us a few key phrases.
And they aren't random. They're linguistic tools designed to execute the strategy we just outlined. Let's deconstruct them.
All right. First one, the universal opener we just saw. Nice weather today, isn't it?
That's your low-friction test. A statement of shared reality disguised as a question to invite easy agreement. If they say yes, you're in.
Then we have the routine checks, tying the conversation to what's happening right now. Are you going to work? And do you take this bus every day?
These are what I'd call temporal anchors. They ground the interaction in the now. You're not talking about the past or the future, just the shared moment. Keeps it low commitment.
Okay. Then there's the more direct one from the work pillar. What do you do? Now, this is a huge staple in English small talk, but doesn't it carry a bit of risk?
That's a great point.
Like you're judging someone by their job.
It can, and in some cultures it would be way too personal. But in this context, it's generally stable because it's about quick role classification. It carries a slight risk, sure, if someone dislikes their job or is unemployed.
But the context matters.
The context is everything. Asking it at a bus stop is very different from asking it on a first date.
That's a really important distinction. You need to know the tool, but also its sharp edges.
Absolutely. The goal is strategy, not dogma.
And finally, the phrase that ties it all up in a bow.
Have a nice day.
The clean social contract closing.
It is. It signals a successful exit.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, it provides one last little dose of positive affirmation. It makes sure both people leave the interaction feeling good, like Maya did.
So, to synthesize this whole deep dive for you, the learner, the rules for successful small talk are actually incredibly simple, but the strategy behind them is profound.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a friendly, polite, validating exchange by sticking to these core topics, weather, work routines, and by prioritizing that feeling of friendliness over perfect grammar.
The focus is always on the emotional goal.
Right.
And that successful emotional outcome, it brings us back to our final question. If you look at Maya, who feels genuine happiness after just a few simple sentences with a total stranger, what does the necessity and success of these short, friendly conversations tell us about our fundamental human need for daily, low-stakes social validation?
Wow. How much social value is actually packed into just a few polite sentences?
Yeah.
And the simple confirmation of a shared routine.
It seems like confirming you exist and that you're friendly is a vital psychological nutrient we need every day. Something to think about the next time you smile and, comment on the sunshine. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling one of the most frustrating and just universal challenges in learning.
Oh, yeah.
It's that huge gap, that chasm between understanding a skill and actually, confidently doing it.
These ultimate learning friction.
Right. You can know all the chords, but then you freeze up on stage. You can understand a whole coding language, but then just stare at a blank screen.
And it's especially, I think, cute when you're mastering a new language. I mean, you've spent months, maybe years, absorbing information.
Reading articles, watching movies, listening to native speakers, all your passive skills are really high.
Exactly.
But the second the microphone turns on or the conversation turns to you, that mental block just slams down.
Yeah, that paralysis. And our source material today, Fluency Through Practice. The story is Alex. It gets right to the heart of this.
It really does. Alex's story gives us a surprisingly simple, a zero-friction roadmap. Not just for English, really, but for conquering that psychological barrier to speaking.
So our mission today is to pull out Alex's specific tactical practice strategies.
And maybe more importantly, that essential mindset shift that, turn knowledge into confident performance. We are deep diving into the actual mechanism of fluency.
And I think you, the listener, will instantly relate to where Alex starts. Alex understands English perfectly well, great reading, great listening.
But when it came to speaking,
That's where the problem was. Alex felt nervous, shy, and was just driven by this deep fear of making mistakes.
okay, let's unpack this. Because that dilemma right there, strong passive skills blocked by active anxiety, that's what stops people from reaching mastery.
It is.
Why is speaking so much more intimidating than, say, reading?
Well, it really just comes down to control and cognitive load. When you're reading or listening, you're just reacting.
You can pause it, you can reread a sentence.
Exactly. It's low stakes, it's receptive. But speaking is production. You have to find the words, build the grammar, get the pronunciation right.
All in real time.
All in real time, while also worrying about what the other person is thinking. And, usually that's just your own harsh inner critic.
So the goal of fluency starts to feel like this massive, stressful performance instead of just a talk.
Which leads us right to the central, powerful insight that Alex discovers.
And the source makes it sound almost deceptively simple.
It is. The foundation is this. Fluency comes from practice, not from perfection.
You have to just remove that pressure of being flawless.
Completely. If you frame success as speaking perfectly, you are just setting yourself up to fail. And your brain defaults to silence to, protect you from that failure.
But I have to push back a little on that. I mean, it sounds nice, but isn't the drive for perfection what pushes us to learn grammar correctly in the first place?
That's a critical question.
How do you just accept mistakes without getting, sloppy with your accuracy?
And Alex's story gives us the answer through action. The key is to distinguish between, say, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
A fixed mindset being, if I make a mistake, I'm bad at English.
Right. Versus a growth mindset, which says, I will make mistakes, and that's how I know I'm actually learning. The fear is rooted in how we were taught in school, where mistakes get red marks.
So Alex had to rewire that whole expectation.
The goal isn't immediate accuracy. The goal is just continuous momentum.
That makes a lot of sense. The fixed mindset leads to self-censorship, which just stops you from practicing at all.
It's a vicious cycle.
So how did Alex break it?
By making one crucial, non-negotiable commitment. The decision to practice speaking out loud every single day.
It wasn't about a new course or a bigger vocabulary list?
No, it was about changing speaking from this big, scary event into a boring daily habit. That consistency, that's the real turning point in the story.
And that's the genius of the roadmap, really. Once you commit to consistency, the methods themselves can be incredibly simple.
Totally low stakes.
Which brings us to Alex's daily practice toolkit. These are strategies designed to build muscle memory without all that pressure.
And they're brilliant because you don't need a partner. They remove the fear of judgment. It's all within your control.
So let's start with the first one, talking to the mirror. The source says Alex did this first thing in the morning. Why the mirror? Why is that so powerful?
Psychologically, the mirror is a zero judgment zone. You're your own audience, and you're a non-critical one.
I see.
The benefit isn't just seeing yourself speak. It's about building a positive identity. You look at yourself, you say English phrases, and you're affirming, this is me now, I'm a person who speaks English.
And the sentences Alex used are almost comically simple, right? We're not talking about rehearsing a big speech here.
Not at all. The source gives examples like, I am learning English.
I like coffee.
Or I am happy today. Just simple affirmative statements.
Why is that simplicity so important?
It's a strategic choice. You're engaging the tongue, the lips, the jaw, the physical parts of speech with almost no brain effort. It's like a linguistic warm-up.
It builds automaticity.
Exactly. If you start your day by successfully saying 3 simple sentences, you've already won that day's battle against self-censorship. You've got momentum.
Okay, so the mirror talk solves that self-judgment problem. But how do you scale that? How do you practice outside the bathroom?
This is where it gets really interesting.
The second strategy.
Alex integrated speaking into daily life through what the source calls narration during routine.
So practice isn't another item on your to-do list?
It's just baked into what you're already doing. You're weaponizing the mundane.
So give us the examples. What does that actually sound like?
Okay, so while cooking dinner, Alex is saying out loud, I'm cooking dinner. I need to chop the vegetables.
The water is boiling now.
Exactly. Or while walking, I am walking to the store. I see a blue car. I am buying milk.
That real-time description,
Yeah.
that seems incredibly effective. You're not searching your brain for some complex idea.
No.
You just look at what you're doing or what you're seeing and you translate that immediate reality into words.
And the linguistic benefit is huge. It forces you to practice the simple present tense. It focuses you on action verbs. It connects language directly to a physical action.
It stops being this abstract mental thing.
And becomes a real-world function. It closes that gap between thought and speech.
But I'm going to ask the same question again. If Alex is only describing simple actions, how does that prepare them for a complex, real-world conversation?
The source is clear on this. This phase isn't about learning complex debate.
It's about building the habit.
The habit of production. If you can make speaking simple, easy, and consistent, the mental blocks just dissolve. Once the fear is gone, then you can add complexity.
You have to prove to your brain that speaking English is a non-threatening automatic process first.
The simplicity is the on-ramp. It's the zero-friction entry point to establish the habit. Only after the habit is locked in does the complexity start to matter.
Okay, so we have the commitment to consistency, we have the mirror talk for affirmation,
Right.
and routine narration for continuous practice. But all of this depends on one critical behavior. The moment Alex confronts that core fear of making a mistake.
Yes, this is the ultimate behavioral override. The source makes the rule absolutely clear. Alex does not stop when mistakes happen.
Just keeps talking.
Just keeps talking.
That is so powerful because most of us, we feel that urge to pause, cringe, correct ourselves.
And that trains the brain that speaking is fragile and dangerous. That pause is where the inner critic just pounces.
So by consciously choosing to keep the speech flowing, even if a word is wrong.
Or the tense is messy, Alex is actively retraining the brain. The priority shifts from accuracy to forward momentum. You're telling your brain, I don't care about the error, I care about communication.
And that's the moment consistency just tramples perfectionism.
Absolutely. And once that shift happens, the shyness and the fear, they just start to erode.
The results, according to the source, they follow pretty quickly.
Yeah, the analysis synthesizes the outcomes really well. Alex slowly starts to feel better. The act of speaking becomes easier. And most importantly, Alex speaks with more confidence.
Getting better every day.
It's a virtuous feedback loop. Success is based on fulfilling the daily commitment, not on being flawless.
So the whole metric for success shifts from did I perform perfectly to did I practice productively today?
And that productive consistency is what gets the skill into your long-term memory and makes it automatic.
Let's make sure we really internalize those mantras from the source, the rules that, allowed Alex to succeed.
If you boil Alex's entire journey down to 3 simple rules, they're these.
You don't need to speak fast.
You don't need to be perfect.
Just speak every day, a little bit.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It means the secret to breaking through that fluency barrier. It wasn't hidden in some complex drill or expensive course.
No.
It was hidden in the commitment to simple daily production and the willingness to prioritize speaking, no matter how awkward or imperfect, over just being silent out of fear.
It means accepting that consistency is the currency of confidence.
That's a great way to put it.
So this deep dive gives us immediate, tangible steps. We've seen the power of that daily commitment, the psychology behind the mirror talk and routine narration.
And the absolute need to prioritize the flow of practice over getting every single word perfect.
And we want to give you 3 immediate, actionable sentences to reinforce that mindset shift today.
Repeat them to yourself. Or even better, say them out loud to your reflection, just like Alex did. They're powerful affirmations.
I practice English every day.
I am not afraid of mistakes.
I speak English with confidence.
Alex's journey shows us that getting better every day is a direct result of starting small and staying consistent.
So we want to leave you with one final thought, something to reflect on that builds on this idea of commitment.
If you commit to Alex's strategy right now, what is the smallest, simplest, zero-friction sentence you can commit to saying out loud tomorrow morning? Just to start the flow, just to declare yourself a speaker.
Identify that one sentence. Start small, stay consistent, and most importantly, keep talking. That's the deep dive for today. We'll see you next time. So if you're learning a new language, especially English, you probably know this frustration. It's very specific.
Oh, absolutely.
You can read these complex articles, you can follow a movie, no problem. Your comprehension is fantastic. But the second you open your mouth to speak,
It's a freeze, a total mental lag.
exactly, a crushing lag. It feels like an eternity, but it's only, 3 seconds? But you just can't find the word.
And that's the single most common roadblock. We call it the gap between, high receptive skills, what you understand, and low productive skills.
It's what you can actually say.
Precisely. It's like having this huge library of English words in your head, but to check one out, you have to run it through this really old manual translation machine first. It's exhausting. It makes the language feel so heavy.
Heavy is the perfect word for it. And the sources we pulled for this deep dive, they really zero in on that exact feeling, that friction.
And they offer what seems like a deceptively simple fix.
Almost too simple. A way to just dismantle that translation engine entirely. Okay, let's unpack this infamous mental translation trap, and how we can actually get around it.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to pull out a simple, actionable strategy for you. One that lets you move past that constant drafting in your first language.
You mean teaching the brain to just jump straight to English?
Exactly. To make it feel more automated, more natural, lighter.
To make this real for everyone, the sources gave us this fictional learner, Anna, and she is so relatable. She understands English perfectly, reads, listens, no problem, but speaking, she just stops. And the problem is, she thinks in her first language, builds this beautiful, complex idea.
And then tries to translate it, word for word, perfectly.
Which, of course, never works.
Never. That process, it just introduces so much friction, so much cognitive drain. You're trying to be precise, but you're doing it twice.
Sources said it makes learners feel nervous, slow,
And ultimately, defeated, because you're running two really intense programs at the same time, formulating a complex thought and then translating it in real time.
I mean, how heavy is that cognitive load, really? Is there a good analogy for it?
Well, think about driving a manual car while trying to do complex math in your head.
Okay, yeah, I would stall immediately.
Right. You can do both tasks on their own, but together, it's inefficient and you're going to stall. When you translate, you're stalling your speech. Your brain is trying to access two completely separate memory systems for one output.
You're using the memory for, facts and rules?
Declarative memory, yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying to use your book knowledge to power something that should be automatic, something that should come from procedural memory.
So declarative is knowing the language, and procedural is doing the language.
Exactly. And you can't drive a car smoothly if you have to look up how to use the clutch in the manual every single time you shift gears.
Which brings us to what Anna did, the shift she made. And this is where it gets really interesting. She decided to try something, pretty radical. She just stopped.
She stopped translating. She started thinking directly in simple English.
Yeah.
And the key word here is simple, just acknowledging her immediate reality.
And that low barrier to entry is, I think, the genius of this strategy. It completely removes the need for advanced grammar or some huge vocabulary. You're just building that procedural muscle.
So let's walk through her first steps. The moment she wakes up, this is where she starts. She's just observing her state, her environment.
And narrating it internally.
That's right. The script in her head is just, I wake up. That's it.
Yeah.
Then I feel tired.
Simple observation.
And then the most functional thought of all, I need coffee. Zero translation required for that one.
And what's fascinating here is the immediate cognitive release that happens. When she forces herself to use these short, simple sentences, she bypasses the whole translation machine.
She's just tagging the world in real time.
In English. And the cognitive load just drops. The language center in the brain is only doing one simple task: recognition and utterance. It's not building some complex structure, it's a foundational retraining. So it turns language learning from this complex decoding task into just simple present tense observation.
Yes. Instead of thinking, how do I correctly express the nuanced concept of morning fatigue in English?
It's just, I feel tired.
I feel tired. It's an instant link.
But okay, let's address the big question here. I know someone listening is thinking this right now.
I'm sure.
But wait, if I only use simple sentences, how do I ever get better? How do I grow? We know Anna can read advanced stuff, so what happens when her internal monologue hits something complex? Something that isn't, I need coffee.
The sources have a beautiful answer for this. The goal isn't to perfectly translate the complex thought. It's to narrate the process of not knowing the word in simple English.
Oh, that's clever.
So if she's thinking, what's the name of that specific company policy again? She doesn't try to translate the policy. She just thinks, I forgot the policy name, or I need to look that up.
So you're using simple English to manage the complexity, to manage the failure even.
Exactly. You are narrating the retrieval process, not translating the content. It keeps the flow going. It keeps the brain in that procedural mode even when you're missing a word. You're building the habit of thinking in English.
Okay, let's follow her through the rest of her morning, because this is where you see how the practice expands. It's not just for when you're alone. She takes it on her commute.
Right. She's making these simple statements about her immediate surroundings, anchoring her brain to the present. It gives her all these sensory cues to link the English words to.
So she gets on the bus, and the internal monologue is just, the bus is full. People are quiet today. I am going to work now. It's all just observation. The environment is dictating the language.
Which is the exact opposite of trying to force a preformed idea from your native language onto English.
And this continues when she gets to her professional setting, which is where the pressure is really on for a lot of people.
That's where the translation trap can feel the tightest.
But her approach is still ruthlessly simple. She arrives, and the thoughts are, I start my job. I answer emails first. I have a meeting at 10. They're all direct, active verbs.
And we can take that even deeper. The sources hint that she uses this to mentally prepare. So before that 10 o'clock meeting, she might be thinking, I check my list.
Right.
I look for the files. I will speak clearly.
And that is the crucial difference. She isn't translating her anxiety about the meeting. She's using simple English to structure her tasks. The language becomes functional. It becomes associated with competence.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of language acquisition, these sentences are so important. They anchor you not just to words, but to action, to intent.
So by saying I answer emails while she's actually doing it?
She is building a direct neurological pathway between the physical act and the English phrase. That's how you bypass the slow translation memory for good. You make the language part of the physical experience.
Not just a commentary on it?
Precisely. And the repetition of these simple, high-frequency sentences is what builds the habit. It's not about complexity at first. It's all about consistency.
And to help people start this immediately, the sources gave some concrete practice sentences. They're almost like little affirmations.
A mental manifesto, really.
Yeah, these are the guardrails for when you feel yourself slipping back into translating.
They're very powerful.
They are. Just, I think in English, I use simple words. I don't translate. And then the last one, for motivation, I am learning every day.
Just memorizing those 4 can keep your brain on the right track.
And this is where we have to talk about the biggest fear for any learner.
The fear of making a mistake.
Yes. But because this is all internal, the stakes are zero. The sources are so clear on this. The crucial tip is you don't need perfect English.
Your internal monologue is your sandbox. It's a safe place to fail.
That permission to be imperfect changes everything. Because if you wait for your internal thoughts to be grammatically flawless, you will wait forever.
You start with simple words, and you let the complexity grow from there once the friction is gone. Think of it like muscle memory. You start with simple movements. 1 sentence, 1 idea. That's the core instruction.
And the sources really stress that this is a habit. It grows with practice. You're not supposed to change your whole brain overnight.
Just start small.
So small. The mantra is, just a little is enough. It takes all the pressure off.
And that relief is tied directly to Anna's outcome at the end of the day. She's talking to herself at night, and her thoughts are, today was good. I tried. I am learning. The dialogue became a source of motivation, not anxiety.
And the result is that aha moment that we want for you listening. She smiled, and she felt that thinking in English feels possible now.
It shifted from being this huge, scary chore to just a series of small, manageable exercises.
That internal simplicity is the gateway.
It really is. The ability to just observe and instantly label your world in English. That's the key to making it automatic.
And that's the whole lesson right there. Stop the translation engine, start simple, focus on the immediate, and trust the repetition.
It breaks down those mental walls and lets all the vocabulary you already have actually become functional.
So, to summarize our deep dive, the strategy is simple. Stop translating. Start thinking in short, simple English sentences that describe your immediate world.
And start small. One idea, one sentence, but do it every day.
Remember those affirmations.
You are learning. You are improving. You are doing great. Keep that internal narrative positive.
And finally, let's leave you with one last thought. We've talked about Anna's whole day, but the hardest part is always just starting.
That first commitment.
So what will be the very first, simplest English thought you commit to having tomorrow morning? Will it be, I wake up, coffee time, sun is bright, or maybe just start now?
Just commit to that one single untranslated idea. Let that be the seed. And from there, the habit of thinking in English can actually start to grow.
That's all the time we have. We really hope this makes your language journey feel a little lighter, a little more automatic. We'll catch you next time. Okay, let's unpack this. We've spent hours doing deep dives into, incredibly complex topics, quantum computing, geopolitical trade wars, you name it. But today, we're drilling down into the surprising elegance of, simplicity. We're analyzing the blueprint of foundational language acquisition. And we're doing it through the lens of an Easy English podcast episode, one that's focused on domestic cleaning essentials.
Right, and it might sound deceptively basic on the surface.
Yeah.
But this source material is just pure, distilled insight for anyone interested in how we learn efficiently. Our mission today is to treat this language lesson like a piece of sophisticated engineering. We're going to analyze the narrative choices, the very calculated vocabulary, and the teaching structure they use to get these ideas across fast.
We're looking for the structural shortcut. If you need to quickly grasp how functional everyday language is taught, or if you yourself need to learn this specific topic really fast for, say, coordinating chores with roommates or family, analyzing this gives you the optimized blueprint, instantly.
Exactly. By deconstructing their whole pedagogical approach, which, it all hinges on clear structure, minimal language, and lots of repetition.
Yeah.
You get to understand not just the content of cleaning, but the methodology they use to make it all stick. It shifts the whole learning process from just, memorizing a dense list of nouns to internalizing a functional routine you can actually use.
And what immediately stood out to me was the psychological priming at the very beginning. The source promises a really clear structure. A simple story, easy words, short sentences, practice. But before any of that, they start with a relaxation cue. They say, take a deep breath, relax. That's an immediate signal to the learner, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That initial warm rapport is highly intentional. You hear, hello and welcome, I'm happy you're here today. And that friendly introduction, it immediately lowers what's called the affective filter.
The emotional barrier to learning.
Exactly. By reducing that anxiety, they're setting the mental stage for successful absorption before the first vocabulary word is even spoken.
So they promise this extreme simplicity, but, implementing simplicity effectively, especially for something as varied as cleaning, is actually quite complex. How do they maintain that simple framework while still covering a necessary range of actions?
They do it with a really relatable narrative device. The story, cleaning day at home. Right. And this narrative, it prevents the lesson from becoming just a dry list of tasks. Instead, you, the learner, get to follow this character, Anna, through a series of concrete chronological actions on a Saturday morning.
And Anna's house provides the perfect starting point, the before state. The source sets the scene so clearly, the house is messy. You get specifics. Clothes on the chair, the kitchen is dirty, the floor needs cleaning. So that contrast between the existing dirty state and the desired clean outcome is established right away.
Establishing that contrast is step one, for sure. It maximizes the utility of those two words. But let's look closer at the sequence. What's the very first action she takes? Before she even picks up a cloth or a mop, Anna opens the windows to let fresh air come in. And what follows immediately? The emotional result. She feels good.
That's a powerful mnemonic, isn't it? It connects the physical action of cleaning not just to, the chore itself, but to an immediate positive psychological reward. They're embedding a verb within a feeling.
Precisely. I wish they'd taught me high-level technical skills with that much emotional reinforcement back in university. I probably would have retained a lot more. It's just really effective pedagogy built right into a simple story. Now, let's get to the real structural genius here.
The highly structured cleaning flow. This isn't just a casual list of things Anna does. It's a sequence that seems designed to maximize vocabulary usage across specific, compartmentalized domains.
That compartmentalization is incredibly effective. They break the entire house into 3 distinct areas, and each area has this 3-task sequence. It gives you a predictable structure, which lowers the cognitive load for the learner.
Okay, so she starts in the kitchen. What are the 3 kitchen tasks?
It's a very tight sequence. First, washing the dishes, then wiping the table, and finally cleaning the sink. So you have 3 specific high-frequency verbs: wash, wipe, clean applied to 3 key kitchen nouns. And then boom, we move on.
Right, then she moves directly to the living room. And here the focus shifts from, wet cleaning to general tidiness and floor care. So again, 3 precise actions: picking up the clothes, putting them in the closet, and then vacuuming the floor.
And this is where we see their technique of interleaving and spaced repetition at work.
Yeah.
Because the final area is the bathroom. So what are the 3 actions there? It's cleaning the mirror, washing the sink, and cleaning the floor.
Wait a minute, she already cleaned the sink in the kitchen and she just vacuumed the floor in the living room, but here she's cleaning it. So they are reusing those core nouns.
Yeah. Exactly. That repetition, or recycling as it's sometimes called, is the absolute key to retention. By using the word sink or floor in 2 different contexts, the learner's brain is forced to retrieve that word again.
Right.
And that act of retrieval strengthens the memory way more than just drilling the word once. This structured repetition, 3 rooms, 3 tasks each with specific word overlap, that's the real deep dive insight into their method.
But doesn't that rigidity risk being, too simplistic? I mean, if the routine is always 3 tasks per room, doesn't that leave gaps? Like, what if she needed to dust the shelves?
That's a fair challenge, but the limitation is intentional. The goal here isn't to provide a comprehensive guide to house maintenance. It's to provide the maximum return on the minimal investment of vocabulary. They've chosen the highest frequency verbs and nouns for general tidiness. It's a robust framework that can later accommodate words like dusting or mopping, but for the initial lesson, they stick to this core 9-step routine.
And the story wraps up really neatly with that simple, satisfying emotional resolution. Anna feels tired but happy, and the success is stated in the simplest way. My house is clean now, I can relax. The context is complete.
That context is vital. The story establishes why you're learning these phrases in the first place. And now, the lesson just smoothly transitions away from that narrative into the practice time segment. Here, the focus shifts entirely to direct, active repetition.
Yeah, that structural transition is marked so clearly. The story did its job, now it's time for application. They use that specific instruction, the up pause, to force you to repeat the phrases out loud. It turns passive understanding into active use and really locks in the pronunciation.
Right. They eliminate the luxury of just passively listening. And the sentences they choose for practice aren't random at all. They're the highest utility, most representative phrases pulled directly from Anna's routine.
We get 5 key sentences for practice. First, establishing the routine. I cleaned the house on Saturday. Then the 3 core actions. I washed the dishes, I vacuumed the floor, and I cleaned the bathroom.
And critically, the final payoff sentence, my house is clean. I mean, think about it. If a learner can consistently and accurately say those 5 short sentences, they've successfully communicated the entire concept of a cleaning routine and its outcome. That is just incredibly efficient.
But I was honestly shocked by the vocabulary review. I mean, they only list 7 words for the whole lesson. Why risk excluding simple functional items like towel or soap or even verbs like sweep or mop? Is that truly maximal utility?
That's a critical observation. The brevity is the entire point. They are ruthless in applying the 80-20 principle here. Look at the 7 words they chose. Clean, dirty, floor, dishes, vacuum, bathroom, and kitchen.
Clean and dirty define the state. The rest are all nouns defining the locations and the main tool or action.
Exactly. Floor, dishes, bathroom, and kitchen cover the main physical areas in that 9-step routine. Vacuum serves as a proxy for the core action of getting the floor clean. They prioritize these high-frequency general nouns that can be used with multiple verbs like sink, was used with both clean and wash over really specific nouns like sponge.
So the deep insight here for any learner is that this entire lesson, by design, gives you the maximum communicative power for this context. with the absolute minimum required vocabulary. You don't need obscure terms. You just need those core 7 words and the 5 practice sentences to be functionally communicative about cleaning.
It's the highest leverage set of words they could have picked.
Yeah.
If you master these 7 words and 5 sentences, you can communicate the routine and the result. And you have a really strong foundation to build on when you eventually do learn mop or towel. This focus lets a learner achieve functional fluency in one specific domain almost immediately.
And the concluding segment just brings it all back home by encouraging you to apply it. They tell the listener, cleaning the house is a great way to practice English, which is smart because it reframes a mundane chore as a language opportunity. Suddenly, the simplest daily actions become these persistent, accessible moments for practice.
It powerfully reinforces their central belief.
Yeah.
Simple English is powerful. Which, it begs the question of how much functional information we can really convey using just these foundational words. Anna's entire, somewhat complex routine was summarized and reinforced using just 7 core words.
It really demonstrates that complexity often hides behind an unnecessary inflation of vocabulary. If you can just ruthlessly distill a topic down to its essential actions and locations, the core message becomes incredibly robust and, well, easy to remember.
And they don't just leave you there. They offer the next logical step in the journey. They point you to an external resource, the book Learn English Through Stories. This reinforces their core method learning through narrative and gives the learner a clear, structured path to level up using the exact same thinking we just analyzed.
So wrapping up our deep dive nuggets from this one source, we've got the structural sequence of Anna's 9-step routine broken down perfectly into 3 areas. We isolated the 7 essential vocabulary words: clean, dirty, floor, dishes, vacuum, bathroom, kitchen, and we extracted those 5 high-utility practice sentences designed for instant active use.
It's a complete, efficient knowledge transfer package for talking about domestic chores. And the key takeaway from the whole thing is that final note of encouragement, that emphasis on consistent, manageable practice. Keep practicing a little every day. You are doing great. Success in acquiring any new skill is built on that consistent daily repetition.
We saw just how powerful and highly structured simplicity can be, and how all the essential information about cleaning a house was distilled into one short story and those 7 hyperfunctional words.
So think about this. If all the crucial functional information needed to communicate a complex daily process like cleaning can be broken down this way, using a minimal, powerful vocabulary framework, then what other complex daily topic, maybe something in your own work or technical process you have to explain often, what could you break down using a similarly simple high-utility list? That minimal framework is often the unrecognized key to rapid functional mastery. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something I think is, well, it's kind of genius in its simplicity. We have a travel diary from a traveler, Anna, who detailed a trip that she called, and this is a direct quote, completely perfect.
And that word perfect is exactly what we're digging into, because when you read the details, this trip was explicitly not expensive. So our mission today is to figure out how she achieved that. It's not about where she went, it's about the blueprint. We're dissecting her choices to find the anatomy of a truly restorative vacation. How do you guarantee that feeling without a 5-star budget?
Okay, so that's the central question, isn't it? The value equation. How does a simple bus trip and a small hotel deliver so much energy and joy that she felt totally ready to work again? If it's not about luxury, it has to be about, what? Intentional execution.
Absolutely. That's the word, intentionality. Luxury can be nice, but it can't create rest on its own. And her intention, it seems, started way before she even packed a bag. So let's start right there. The pre-trip mindset.
The very first detail that jumped out at me was the commitment. The source says this trip is taken every year in summer. It's a routine. It's non-negotiable. Why is that so important?
Well, that annual commitment, it basically institutionalizes rest. It makes it a formal part of your year. You take away all the mental load of deciding if you deserve a vacation or when you can fit it in. It sets this baseline expectation for renewal, which is just a massive stress reducer. You're committed to your own recovery before you've even thought about where to go.
That's a great point. It's like a built-in reset button for the year. Okay, then we get to the tactical side of things. Packing. Anna packed her bag. Just clothes, a hat, sunglasses the night before. For most of us, that last hour before a trip is just chaos. Forgotten chargers, panic.
And that panic is exactly what kills the initial joy, right? What she did was put up this small firewall against that pre-trip stress. Just by getting that one crucial thing done early, The source notes, she woke up feeling excited, and that's the key. She wasn't rushed, she wasn't anxious, she protected her own anticipation.
She optimized the emotional runway.
Yep.
Like that. We can all relate to how much better a trip starts when you're actually excited, not just frantic. Let's talk about the journey. A bus, described as long but nice. Most people would just call that miserable dead time to be endured. How did she flip that script?
She actively managed it. The source is specific here. She spent the time looking out the window and listening to music, and that's the critical insight. She didn't crack open the laptop to clear her inbox. She didn't just scroll on her phone. She shifted her focus outward to the scenery and used music as this positive, passive stimulation.
That is a massive distinction. When I think about my own travel, I often try to fight the transit time. I try to work through it or distract myself, but she just accepted it as part of the rest.
Exactly. She didn't treat the bus ride as a hurdle. She treated it as a transition, a mandatory wind-down period. By watching the scenery, you're basically forcing your brain to slow down, to just observe. It's not task-oriented. You're priming yourself for rest. The vacation begins the moment you decide to enjoy the journey, not just when you arrive.
So she's mentally prepared, her excitement is intact, and she's already had a restful transition. Now, let's get to where she landed. We're moving into section 2, setting the scene.
Right. And when she arrives, the environment immediately reinforces this whole theme. The weather was specifically described as warm and sunny, simple, but important.
And her choice of accommodation really underlines that external focus. A small hotel near the sea.
The simplicity here is, it's everything, isn't it? The cost was low because the goal was entirely external.
Absolutely. The money went to one thing, proximity. Proximity to the core restorative element, the ocean.
Yeah.
Not to a fancy spa or room service. The hotel is just a base camp. It reinforces the idea that you're meant to be outside. It puts nature first, not the distractions of a luxury resort.
And this choice, it immediately impacts the rhythm of her day. The first deviation from her normal routine is so important. Anna woke up late. It's such a simple thing, but why is sleeping in so powerful for our mental state? Because it's the purest form of reclaiming your own time, of reclaiming agency. In our normal lives, our schedule is dictated by everything else, the alarm clock, the meeting calendar. The whole point of a restorative trip is to regain that personal sovereignty. So when you reject the alarm clock, you're sending this really powerful signal to your brain. The pressure is off.
It's the simplest way to get both physical rest, more sleep, and mental rest by just breaking from that external clock. A clean break. And I guess staying in a small, simple hotel near the sea probably makes that easier. Less noise, fewer distractions. Okay, that brings us to the real core of this perfect vacation. Section 3, the restorative routine. Her days were structured around these really simple, specific activities. Let's start with the mornings.
Every morning, she had a walk on the beach, and then she swam in the sea. And notice the pairing there. This isn't a high-intensity workout she's forcing herself to do. It's restorative movement. The walking connects her to the sensory feeling of the sand, and the swimming is just this low-impact, cooling, physical release.
I love that. It's like a full sensory bath to start the day. Sand, sun, salt water.
Yeah.
It's immediately grounding.
And that grounding sets her up for the next phase, mental leisure, midday. Her activities were reading a book and drinking cold juice. And this is where we see that contrast between active and passive leisure.
Tell us more about that, because a lot of people on vacation would use that time to scroll social media or binge watch something. Why is reading a physical book so much better for restoration?
Well, scrolling is passive consumption. It stimulates your brain, sure, but it's often emotionally draining. It keeps you in a state of alert reactivity. Reading a book it's active, mindful leisure. It engages your brain, but on your own terms. You control the pace, the focus, and the cold juice. That becomes this tiny intentional ritual, a sensory micro-pleasure that just anchors her in that quiet moment. It's about being present in the calm.
The power to the small ritual. You're not just drinking juice, you're performing a moment of deliberate calm.
Exactly. Now, fast forward to the afternoon and evening. Sensory and local engagement. Anna made a point to try local food, which she noted was fresh and delicious. This is more than just eating. It's a conscious engagement with the place through taste.
It sounds like every meal was an experience, not just fuel. That focus on freshness and local flavor, it's a way of making sure you're not bringing your rushed at-home eating habits with you.
And that sensory focus culminates in the final, most deliberate act of the day, watching the sunset. This isn't passive. It's an intentional practice of mindfulness, of appreciation. It sets a natural end cap on the day. And, maybe most importantly, it's almost impossible to watch a sunset properly if you're also staring at a screen.
That's a fascinating point. The sunset itself becomes the anti-screen activity. And if we tie all this back to the outcome, she explicitly said she felt calm and happy.
Right. If you break it down, she accidentally built this perfect recovery formula. It's based on 3 simple things. Move your body, the walk, the swim. Quiet your mind, the book, the juice, and taste the world, the food, the sunset. These low-cost, intentional choices directly led to that calm and happy feeling. That's the formula.
We've laid out the structure, the routine, and now we get to section 4, the synthesis. This is where it all comes together. The big takeaway quote. My vacation was not expensive, but it was perfect.
That quote it completely challenges the idea that more money equals more rest. It proves that perfection is about fulfillment. It's about matching the experience to your deep need for renewal, not about the price tag. She needed rest and joy, and she got both through intentional simplicity.
And the success is confirmed right there in the text. The dual benefit. She rested her body and her mind, which means the routine worked holistically. The physical stuff took care of the body, and the mindful, quiet stuff took care of the mind.
And the ultimate proof, the real measure of success for any recharge, is the outcome. She felt ready to work again. She didn't just escape her life. She replenished her capacity to actually engage with it again. The trip served its purpose.
So the core insight we're pulling from this is actually pretty simple. A truly good vacation gives you energy and joy. It's not about stopping work. It's about actively recharging.
Exactly. And if you look at the concepts, hotel, travel, food, it wasn't just about having them, it was about how she did them. She chose simplicity and nature for her hotel. She chose active engagement for her travel. She chose mindful immersion for her food and reading. Those behaviors, those are the building blocks of her perfect trip. So, to just briefly recap Anna's trip, what we see is the power of simplicity. Low-cost travel, a hotel focused on nature, a relaxed pace that starts with sleeping in, and these very specific daily activities, walking, swimming, trying local food, watching the sunset. These are things that are accessible to almost anyone who's looking for a real reset.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to consider, and it comes directly from Anna's success. She rested her body and mind mainly through simple, natural acts, right? Walking, swimming, watching the sun go down. So here's the question. How much of your own deep rest actually relies on that kind of intentional sensory engagement with the world around you? And how much of it gets lost when you just rely on distraction? The next time you get a chance to rest, ask yourself, how much of that time will you spend looking up and out versus looking down at a screen? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the anatomy of a truly perfect vacation. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You've handed us a really fascinating set of sources this week.
Okay.
It's not a geopolitical briefing or some deep read on market volatility. It's actually excerpts from a basic English language learning tool.
Right.
Specifically, Easy English Podcast, Mastering Winter Vocabulary, and a segment called Talking About Winter in English, which is narrated by someone named Daniel.
And it's the perfect source material for a deep dive, really, precisely because it looks so simple on the surface.
Exactly.
Our mission here isn't just to learn the words jacket or snow. We're trying to analyze the narrative architecture of language instruction itself.
The story behind the words.
The story behind the words, yes.
Yeah.
We're looking for how this simple story structures a powerful cultural and even emotional script for how you should handle a season. We're looking for those little aha moments that make the vocabulary actually stick.
Absolutely. We're basically dissecting the implicit argument that Daniel is making about winter.
Right.
And the entire narrative, it seems to be set up around one key tension and then one ultimate reward. The hurdle is established right away. Winter is cold. But the reward, the conclusion Daniel wants you, the listener, to reach, is that the season, despite that cold, is ultimately quiet and peaceful.
And that cold to peace dichotomy is the engine.
Yeah.
It drives the entire instructional narrative. If the experience were just easy, if it were just mild,
there'd be no story.
There'd be no story. There'd be no need for preparation and no emotional value in the stillness. The cold establishes a necessary challenge, and that eventual peace becomes this hard-earned achievement.
So let's unpack this journey. Let's start with those mandated logistics in Section 1, preparation and the tyranny of time.
Well, the initial phase is purely reactive. The source immediately grounds us in a physical reality. It says the weather is cold, and it even acknowledges some variability. Sometimes it snows.
Right.
This is the environmental obstacle the learner has to first recognize and then, well, physically respond to.
And crucially, the narrative gives us a time element that dictates our behavior before we even get to the clothing. Daniel notes that the days are short and the nights are long.
I think this is a hugely significant detail, even though it's so simple. What's fascinating here is how that description fundamentally redefines our internal clock and our sense of permission.
Permission, that's an interesting word for it.
Well, shorter days mean less natural light for external, highly productive activity. It creates a kind of psychological contract.
Okay.
The environment itself mandates a necessary slowdown and a retreat indoors. It subtly removes the feeling of guilt or that fear of missing out that's often associated with reducing your pace. The short day justifies the behavioral shift.
That's a great observation. It's not just a fact of astronomy, it's a behavioral permission slip. And that environmental permission, it leads directly to the mandatory vocabulary of protection.
It has to.
The cold and the short days require an active defense. Daniel mentions the general need for warm clothes, but then he immediately narrows it down to this essential kind of trinity of winter defense. He says, I wear a jacket, I wear a scarf and gloves.
And let's just dedicate a moment to those three specific items. They are the tactical vocabulary.
Tactical, I like that.
Yeah, why those three? They represent the baseline defense for the three most vulnerable areas against the cold. Your core, which is the jacket, the neck and windpipe, the scarf, and the extremities, your hands, the gloves.
So it's a system.
It's a system. They aren't just isolated words. They teach a universal human strategy for compartmentalizing warmth. If you fail to secure the core, or your breathing, or your fingers, the whole experience fails. They are the prerequisite for comfort, the armor you need to put on to engage with the outside world successfully.
So once that logistical barrier is conquered, once we've put on the armor of the jacket and gloves, the narrative shifts, doesn't it?
Close.
How does the text describe the actual act of facing the environment we just prepared for? Which brings us to section 2. The sensory experience and outside observation.
And this is where the narrative moves from necessary defense to voluntary appreciation. Daniel introduces a really critical nuance in describing the air.
Yeah.
He doesn't just say the air is cold, which we already knew.
Right, we got that.
He specifies, when I go outside, the air is cold and fresh.
That one word, fresh, completely transforms the sensation, doesn't it?
Totally.
Cold is functional, it makes you shiver. But fresh is evaluative. It implies clarity, cleanliness, maybe invigoration. It shifts the whole experience from an endurance test to a moment of sensory awakening.
Absolutely. Because if the air were only cold, the desire would be to just rush back inside as fast as you can.
Of course.
But because it's described as cold and fresh, Daniel's next actions are deliberate and observational. He says, I walk slowly. I like to look at the sky and the trees.
I wonder if this slow pace idealizes inefficiency. Is the learner being taught to sort of enjoy the challenge of moving slowly? We're usually conditioned to associate slow movement with weakness or extreme cold. But here it's presented as a choice of contemplation.
That's the key analytical moment, isn't it? It's not about inefficiency. It's about mindfulness.
Mindfulness, okay.
The cold air, countered by the protective gear, it forces a slow pace.
Yeah.
But the description of the air as fresh converts that forced slowness into an opportunity. By walking slowly and actively observing the sky and trees, Daniel is performing this quiet, meditative ritual.
You can't be peaceful if you're rushing.
You cannot achieve quiet and peaceful if your internal pace is hurried. This controlled observational movement is the essential bridge that links the cold exterior to the calm interior goal.
It recontextualizes the entire outdoor walk. It's not just getting from A to B. It's an active engagement with the world that prepares your mental state for what's next. It's almost as if the language is prescribing how to use the outdoor environment to set the stage for the indoor reward.
Precisely. The outdoor world, now that it's been managed and observed, has done its job. It's chilled the body just enough and slowed the mind sufficiently to maximize the enjoyment of the next phase.
Which brings us inside for section 3, where the focus shifts completely to maximizing warmth and cementing that feeling of inner calm. The sensory sharpness of the cold and fresh air is now replaced by the comforting rituals of the indoor world.
The indoor transition is a complete psychological reset. The priority shifts from physical defense to internal restoration, and it's achieved through very specific and this is important, highly accessible comfort rituals.
And we get two major, very specific rituals related to food and drink. Daniel says, in winter, I drink hot tea. Sometimes I drink hot coffee. The drinks themselves aren't the primary point, but it's more about their multisensory function in achieving relaxation.
Well, let's focus on why those two specific drinks are chosen. For a language learning tool that's aiming for broad cultural accessibility, tea and coffee are globally neutral instruments of warmth.
Ah, that's a good point. They're universal.
They're simple, they're safe, and they're universally understood. Plus, the ritual itself is incredibly rich. It's not just the temperature that warms you. It's the steam on your face, the smell, the tactile experience of holding a warm mug. It regulates the body, and it provides a focal point for relaxation.
He says it explicitly.
He does. The stated effect, it makes me feel warm and relaxed, positions the hot drink as a kind of pharmacological tool, a natural, immediate way to induce that desired emotional and physical state.
And the relaxation achieved through the drink then defines the whole evening routine. The activities listed are so deliberate. Staying at home, reading a book, watching a movie, and then resting to feel calm.
This selection of activities is crucial. Why reading a book or watching a movie?
Right.
Well, this contrasts active cognitive pursuit, reading, with passive visual engagement, which is movie watching. They're both forms of structured, seated distraction.
So you're occupied but not stressed.
Exactly. This sustains a state of calm, a specific kind of mental tranquility, without just descending into simple tiredness that might come from, say, just taking a nap. The decision to stay home, to engage with this structured indoor leisure, acts as the final validation of the whole cold retreat. It completes the loop.
The cold justified the need to slow down.
And the indoor rituals validate the internal calm that was promised from the start.
It's a compelling, detailed argument for why winter, despite its inherent difficulties, can be a season of intentional, restorative pleasure. It's a methodology, not just a list of words.
And that methodology is packaged entirely within easy-to-digest vocabulary and really simple sentence structures. The genius is in the sequencing.
So if we look at the progression, preparation, observation, and then rest, what is the central behavioral argument Daniel is making about how to live successfully in winter?
The central argument is that the cold is not a detriment, but a necessary catalyst for introspection and for ritual.
So a good thing, almost.
In a way, yes. The narrative teaches the listener not just vocabulary, but emotional permission to disconnect from external pressures and to prioritize self-care through simple, repeatable actions. It's a structured journey from necessity to voluntary appreciation. The cold gives us a perfectly acceptable reason to just be still.
I think we also need to address the limitations here, though. While this script is beautifully structured, is this ideal universal? Or does this narrative specifically appeal to a certain cultural experience? Perhaps a northern, western, or temperate climate where winter often demands a philosophical justification for slowness?
That's a highly critical point.
Right.
This narrative, it works best in a context where indoor comfort is achievable through simple means, like a jacket and a hot drink.
Right.
It posits that the challenge is manageable and the reward is internal peace. Now, this might not map onto every learner's experience globally, but for teaching English vocabulary, it establishes an aspirational, universally relatable concept of cozy, intentional retreat. The narrative structure itself is flawless for its goal,
Which is
making the vocabulary stick by linking it to a positive emotional outcome.
So let's revisit that final vocabulary list provided in the source. Winter, cold, snow, jacket, scarf, gloves, hot tea, warm.
When we look at this list now, we realize they're the thematic pillars of the entire constructed experience. We have the environment, winter, cold, snow.
The challenge.
Then the necessity, the armor, jacket, scarf, gloves. Then the ritual, hot tea. And then the ultimate desired outcome, warm. Every single word exists to support that final conclusion.
And that conclusion is the ultimate positive valuation placed on the season. It summarizes the entire successful navigation of this winter narrative. Winter's cold, but I like it. It is quiet and peaceful. The cold is acknowledged as a fact, but the resulting stillness is prioritized as the emotional truth of the season.
It's an incredibly sophisticated piece of instructional design when you break it down. By framing the vocabulary within a successful narrative arc, the listener acquires not just a lexicon, but an emotional map for the season.
So that simple structure reveals deep insights into cultural practices and the emotional valuation of seasons. For you, the learner, this isn't just about vocabulary. It's about acquiring a positive methodology for navigating cold weather.
And this raises an important question for you to consider going forward. In Daniel's script, The central struggle is protection from the cold, and the reward is retreat leading to peace.
Right.
So if we were to analyze the basic language used to describe the opposite seasons, summer, what would the central struggle be? Is it protection from the heat? And does the reward focus on relief or maybe escape?
That's a great question.
I mean, analyze the vocabulary used to describe the simple universal rituals for surviving heat, maybe a glass of cold water or sitting in a shady spot. What cultural narrative do those words prescribe for that time of year? That's something to mull over.
A truly great provocation to end on, tying those two competing seasonal narratives together. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the quiet architecture of simple language.
Always a pleasure to unpack the complexity hidden in the obvious.
We'll see you next time.